Hello everyone, got 5 dirty jokes for you today. So once upon a time, there lived a wealthy mother-in-law who had 3 loving daughters, each married off to 3 fine gentlemen. Curious to know if her sons-in-law truly cared about her, she hatched a mischievous plan to put them to the test. One sunny afternoon, the crafty mother-in-law invited her first son-in-law for a friendly run in the nearby countryside. As they jogged along the picturesque trail, they eventually reached a serene river, where the gentle current flowed peacefully. With a sly smile, she pretended to lose her footing and slipped into the water. Without a moment's hesitation, the dutiful son-in-law sprang into action, heroically diving into the river and pulling her to safety. Impressed by his quick response and genuine concern, the grateful mother-in-law decided to reward him handsomely for his bravery. The very next day, the first son-in-law received an unexpected surprise at his doorstep: a shiny, brand-new Audi car and a jaw-dropping $10 million in cash, accompanied by a heartwarming note that read, "Thanks for saving me, your loving mother-in-law." Feeling rather pleased with the outcome of her little test, the cunning mother-in-law decided to give her second son-in-law a chance to prove his love and devotion. Inviting him for an invigorating run the following day, they found themselves once again near the same riverbank. With a mischievous twinkle in her eye, the mother-in-law enacted her plan once more, pretending to lose her balance and falling into the river. And like clockwork, her second son-in-law leaped into action, rescuing her from the water's embrace with remarkable speed and skill. As a token of her appreciation, the mother-in-law gifted him the very same rewards: another shiny Audi car, an astonishing $10 million in cash, and a heartfelt note that expressed, "Thanks for saving me, your loving mother-in-law." With 2 successful tests behind her, the wealthy mother-in-law was eager to see how her final son-in-law would respond. Inviting him for a leisurely run on the 3rd day, they approached the river, the site of her playful charade yet again. As she slips into the river, her 3rd son-in-law just ignores her and walks back to his home. The very next day, he sees 2 brand-new cars were delivered to his doorstep, along with a staggering $20 million in cash. Accompanying these extravagant gifts was a note that stated, "Thanks for saving me, your father-in-law." So a drunk man sitting at a bar starts to dry heave. The bar patrons instinctively moved away from him, and sure enough, he vomits all over the bar and himself. The man immediately starts sobbing loudly. The bartender approaches slowly to address the mess. He says to the man, "Hey, man, don't worry about it. You're not the first guy to throw up here." "You don't get it," the man wails. "I promised my wife I wouldn't drink tonight. When I get home, she's gonna see me like this, and I'm gonna be in so much trouble." The bartender smiles. "I have just the thing for you. Do you have $20? The drunk looks confused, but fishes a $20 bill from his wallet and hands it to the bartender, who folds the bill and tucks it in the drunk man's shirt pocket. "When you get home, you say you were out for a walk and you passed a bar. A man came out of the bar and threw up all over you. He felt so bad that he gave you the $20 to pay for your dry cleaning." The drunk man immediately brightens up. "You saved my life. Thank you." He settles up with the bartender and staggers off into the night. Some time later, he arrives at home and is fumbling with his house keys. His wife opens the door, and her eyes go wide with rage. "Look at you. You got drunk again. You're a disgusting mess." She fumes. The drunk man grins and grabs the money from his pocket. "Now hang on, honey. All I did was go for a long walk. I walked past a bar, and some guy stumbled out and threw up all over me. He felt really bad about it, so he gave me $20 to pay to get my clothes cleaned. He hands her the money. She looks at the money. But there's $40 here. Oh yeah, he also shit my pants. So two old men are arguing about history and the splendors of Athens and Rome. The Greek man says, "Look, all I'm saying is that the Greeks invented everything the Romans get credit for." The Italian says, "Yes, maybe, but the Romans improved it and made it useful." The Greek man says, "We invented the democracy." The Italian says, "We realized the challenge of direct elections and the benefit of the legislature, and thus created the republic." The Greek man says, "Yes, but we created beautiful architecture like the Parthenon." The Italian says, "And we improved your building techniques and used them to create aqueducts and structures that stood for centuries longer." The Greek man, frustrated, finally says, Of course. But the Greeks, we invented lovemaking." The Italian man stops a moment to think, then says, "That may be true, but we introduced it to women." So an engineer, physicist, and mathematician have been imprisoned. At some point, the warden realizes that the three men haven't been fed in a while. He accompanies an officer to check up on them. The warden and officer arrive at the first cell that contained the engineer. To their astonishment, the cell was empty and the wall had a hole in it. "How is that possible?" said the officer. "That wall was solid concrete." The warden quietly inspected the cell. After a few minutes, he exited and said, "He seems to have built a pick out of the eating utensils we gave him and used it to make the hole." The warden and officer continued to the next cell that contained the physicist. However, he too was gone, and once again there was a hole in the wall. And of course, the warden inspected the cell and returned after a few minutes. The warden declared, according to the papers on his bed, he very carefully calculated the weakest point on the wall and repeatedly hit it with a rock until it broke open. Finally, they arrived at the last cell that contained the mathematician. Unfortunately, he lay dead on the cell floor from starvation. The officer sighed. After the other two, I would have expected he would have also escaped. He also has some papers on his bed. The warden entered the cell and picked up the papers. Then he shook his head and chuckled. It appears, the warden said, that he spent several days writing a very detailed proof that it was possible to break the wall. This guy is on the street corner spitting and cussing. A little old lady goes and gets a cop, telling him about what the guy is doing. Sure enough, when the cop comes up to the guy, he spits and says, "Darn, that guy can drive a car." The cop tells him to stop spitting and cussing and then asks him what the problem is. The man again spits and says, "Darn, that guy can drive a car." The cop again tells him not to spit and cuss and asks him what the problem is. The man replies, "I was thumbing a ride when this guy stopped and picked me up. He takes off at 100 miles an hour, and I'm scared to death." As we entered town, the guy slows down to about 60 miles per hour and skids into an alley where again he picks up speed. Right in front of us are two 18-wheelers parked on either side of the alley with only 4 feet between them. I screamed out, "We are going to die." Then right before we were going to crash, I looked over and told the guy, "If you get us out of this alive, I will fillet you." Again he spits and tells the cop, "Darn, that guy can drive a car."